Hi, my name is Brandon Pasternak. Reason I'm here today is to talk a little bit about immigration. Uh, I consider myself to be center right. My ideas do lean onto the right side of the aisle, but I am a very big moderate. I have no problem working with someone across the aisle and discovering new ways to help each other and discovering new and different approaches. I think the main thing we need to talk about is just coming to the reality of what's going on down at the southern border. We can't just be saying nothing's happening. We can't say that there's not a crisis down there. We can't ignore it. We can't pretend this problem's going to go away. It's going to affect every American. If not today, it's not going to be tomorrow. It could be a week, a month, a year from now. What we currently have going on is we have that hundreds of thousands of people wanting to get into the United States are currently our society and our social programs can't support them. We need to come to terms with that. Our social programs can only support X amount of people, and we can't be constantly adding new people to that system every single day. It's unfeasible and it's unrealistic. Another thing is I believe that we need to construct a border wall. I believe we should use the same plan that Republicans and Democrats could agree on by using the Republicans' plan to build a border wall and using the Democrats' plan of building a digital wall, which will be made through cameras, drone surveillance, be able to monitor Earth movement under the ground, so making sure that people couldn't tunnel underneath. They're both great ideas. I think we should be doing both. And that's just coming to terms with we are a nation that people want to get into. I mean, we're a great place to live. I mean, people are safe generally. We don't have to worry about war inside our nation. We don't have to worry about famine. We don't have to worry about hunger in large priorities, in large proportions. And so people will constantly be trying to come here. And I think that's a great thing that that these people want the American dream. The American dream isn't just for Americans, it's for everyone who wants to be an American. And so that can be someone who's coming from Mexico. It can be someone who's coming from Africa. It can be someone who's coming from Europe or Russia. It doesn't matter. As long as they believe in our values and believe in who we want to be, that is what it means to have the American dream. That being said, we need to be realistic and put rules into place. So, like I said, having the border wall, the physical wall, and having that electronic wall is just one step. On top of that, we have to fix the broken immigration system. We need to have a system in place that helps people not just from coming into the nation and here's X amount of dollars and there you go, and they throw them into each state's individual healthcare service. That's just not feasible anymore. I mean, eventually that system is going to collapse. What we need to do is have a solid plan that takes care of them for their health care, jobs, their living conditions, just very simple things, and having a very well laid out plan. And that's not something that Republicans can just do. That's not something that Democrats can do. They both need to come together and come up with a consensus for what's going on down there. And that will start helping communities in inner cities and helping people in lower end communities. And the reason why that would help them is because now we wouldn't be having people constantly coming over and flooding into these job markets, and so they can lower wages. This will actually help people get into jobs and start getting people into better paying work. There's a lot of work that is currently available in the United States. Welders are heavily needed. HVAC's heavily needed. Mechanics are heavily needed. Refrigerator repairmen, dishwasher repair people are constantly needed. And we can train for those jobs. I mean, we have the Department of Labor statistics that constantly tell us what jobs are currently needed. We have the information available to us to start training people, not just that are immigrants coming across the border, but we can start training people in our disenfranchised communities and getting them out of those situations. If we told people that, hey, we have a program set up that's going to teach you how to be a welder or a repairman, and it'll get you out of the city and you can start a brand new life anywhere in the country that you want, I think people would take that chance. I mean, that would help inner cities with gang violence. It would help people get out of the cities, because currently right now we don't have programs to help people once they get out of prison. I mean, under the current system right now, we have you go to prison, you get out of prison, and you're still being punished. I've worked with people personally that have gone to prison for drug trafficking. They've gone to prison for gang violence, and they could tell me, like, the minute they went to prison, they swore to never end up in that place again because it's not a fun place. And there's people that we can help, and there's people that can be retrained and be able to re-enter society. And those people are heavily affected, especially in inner cities. And then you just have people who just don't have high education that live in the inner cities. They didn't have access to go to college. They didn't have access to go to trade school. And so we can create programs to help them. Now, that being said, we can't just create these. I can't just say, well, let's just create these programs and we'll be able to fix all these problems. We need to stop saying we need to add more money into social programs and just rework and redistribute the money that's currently there. In the United States currently, if we were to take all the money that we spend on the military, the federal government, and everything other than what we spend on social programming, we're still going into the negative. And we can't continue to do that. I don't know what the number is. I don't know if it's going to happen today. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow, in a month, a year, 10 years. But there's going to be a point where we're not going to be able to raise the debt ceiling anymore. There's going to be a point where we're going to fault on our bills. And that's a United States that no one wants to live in. So we have to start taking these problems extremely seriously, and we need to start coming together to make change in these types of areas. I believe that if we set aside our egos, set aside the arrogance, especially in terms of politicians. A lot of politicians are arrogant and they don't want to change their positions, or they don't want to listen to somebody on the opposite side of the aisle because they're trying to protect their seat and protect their party, which they're not even there for that reason. They're not there to protect the party. They're there to represent American citizens. They're there to represent their constituents. So we need to stop that type of arrogance and really settle in on these problems. And it's not something that one person can change. It's not something that one person's going to have all the ideas for, or I could sit here and give you an example on how we should change it, but I'm just one person. Not just one person can change this. I mean, not one person has every single answer. That's going to be something that our politicians and the people in the United States need to just start saying, hey, we're here, we have ideas, we have the ability to speak out, and we think we know how the United States should be ran. We think we know how we should change our social programs or how we should change our immigration system to have better results than what we currently have, because currently our immigration system is completely broken. It's just a hodgepodge of bills and ideas and that have been constantly piled on top of each other. Same with social programs. It's just been constantly piled on top of each other without taking into account how the money's being spent, or are we spending too much? Because the number one thing, and I don't know if the people in our government just don't realize it or they just don't care, is that as soon as the U.S. government gets involved in something, someone's going to charge the highest dollar amount. That's why things cost so much money. They need to start taking that into account. They need to start actively looking for deals. They need to start actively looking to spend less money and not have to pay the highest dollar amount for just the simplest items. They need to wheel and deal more. And I think that's something where Republicans would be really good at. I mean, there's things that Democrats are good at. There's things that Republicans are good at. And I think if we just work together more and let go of our arrogance and let go of our narrow-mindedness, we'd be able to just come together, figure out what our number one problems are, and just finally work on them. Like currently in the Senate, I mean, they stop an entire day of proceedings just to talk about memes, or they talk about just nonsense instead of just saying, hey, you know what, we do have a border crisis, or we do have a crime problem, or we do have justice reform problems. No one wants to just sit there and talk about it. They just want to complain about it. And I don't think that's not helping us, as we're currently seeing with, just Congress's poll numbers, the president's poll numbers. I mean, just talking about issues and not retroactively trying to figure out how to fix them isn't working. I just think if we all just take a moment and to actually ask the right questions and to start asking, how can we change our current programs to better serve our people, we'd get a lot better results than just trying to throw money at every single problem.